Tesla gets snubbed again by President Biden, who somehow thinks that General Motors is why we have great electric cars, not aware that GM has brought none of them to the Los Angeles Auto Show despite having one of the largest displays. Forbes contributor Tom Moloughney will be here to make sense of it all and with a big story of his own about a new EV record set by Lucid Motors. Plus, in other electric car news, everything that happened at the LA Auto Show, including yours truly hosting responsibilities at the Zivas Awards ceremony, a quick look at another EV event in California, Xpeng's 4th EV unveiling, and other electric car news coming up next. Welcome to E4 Electric. Don't forget to click on that subscribe button and the bell notification icon so you don't miss anything moving forward. Before I get to the top story, I want to thank the Los Angeles Auto Show for selecting me to host their very first electric vehicle award ceremony, the Zivas. It was a blast. More on that later in the video. Now to our top story, which technically comes out of the Los Angeles Auto Show, though it's more about what General Motors didn't have on their showroom floor than what they did, and we'll get to what happened with President Biden at the GM's factory in a second. But look at this huge space that General Motors got on the main floor of the show, and yet it didn't bother to bring a single electric vehicle for anyone to see. Not the Hummer EV, not the Lyriq, not any of the concepts, and not even a Bolt, though those might have not gotten through the security as an obvious fire hazard. I've reached out to General Motors to ask them why in the world they would play hide and seek with the general public and the media while claiming that they will have 20 all-electric vehicles by 2023. Now, none of those contacts have gotten back to me. I'm assuming they're busy gassing their cars for the Thanksgiving road trips, but I have heard from other journalists that GM is very upset with them after a few have pointed out this very fact in their reports. Hey, don't shoot the messengers, GM, and you can't blame this dumpster fire on LG Chem either. You gotta put this one out yourselves. Now, if you remember, only a couple of weeks ago, GM had the biggest EV display at the SEMA show in Vegas, where nobody was expecting much of an EV presence at all. Well, at least we now know what GM's Halloween costume was this year. Apparently, they went as Toyota. We hate clean air. Boo. But this wasn't even the most outrageous thing that happened on GM's watch this week. You'll never believe what President Biden has suggested in his remarks when he visited the GM's Factory Zero a few days ago. I will wait for you to take your high blood pressure meds before I play the clips in just a second, but before that, a quick reminder that this video is brought to you by our new sponsor, Too Simple, the world's most advanced AI-powered autonomous driving solution for heavy-duty trucks. Its technology has already been applied to haul freight autonomously for UPS since 2019. Too Simple was the first autonomous driving company to go public in 2020 and has an impressive list of investors, including Volkswagen Straton Group, NVIDIA, and UPS. For more information, check out the link in the description of this video. So, President Biden spoke at the inauguration of GM's Factory Zero this week and once again said things that, well, you be the judge.
In the auto industry, Detroit's leading the world in electric vehicles.
Really, Mr. President? Leading the world in electric vehicles? You know, if by any chance you're in Los Angeles in the next week or so, you can see that they're not even leading the South Hall of the LA Convention Center in electric vehicles. Now, if your blood pressure has not shot up high enough after hearing that, the next clip will sure drive you into a full aneurysm.
You electrified the entire automobile industry. I'm serious. You led.
Mr. President, Joe, their entire fleet of the future EVs that they've made so far is literally all behind you. Now, there is no secret that this administration is in favor of unions, and GM is all about that, but this administration also said that they were in favor of, what do you call those? Facts. But I guess they're taking a union-mandated break from that. Now, just in case if you're new to this channel, let me be very clear that the world's leader in electric cars, without a doubt, is Tesla. To be fair to the president, though, the infrastructure bill that he just signed earlier this week does include a $7.5 billion investment in electric vehicles, and he is working towards signing another one that will bring back the EV tax credits to all of the EV makers, possibly raising the amount to $12,500. For more on this, and with his own exclusive story this week, we turn to the Forbes contributor and the host of the State of Charge YouTube channel, Tom Moloughney. All right, Tom, so we are in the middle of Los Angeles Auto Show. You're actually in Los Angeles right now. I just came back. And, you know, one of the biggest stories is not so much what is there, but what isn't. And what isn't is the GM's electric cars, despite them promising a lot of them in the next couple of years. What do you make of that?
Yeah, you know, it's really surprising. The funny thing is, everybody I bump into out here has asked me that question. What do you think about this? Because they don't have any electric cars. I mean, the Hummer EV's coming out. The Lyric is launching soon, and nothing with electric vehicles. It's surprising, it's disappointing, it's a lot of things. You know, if you want to invent excuses, maybe you could say because it's kind of a pared down show this year, you know, the displays aren't as big as usual, there's less people, so they're going to bring less vehicles. But for crying out loud, you gotta have an EV out there somewhere, and they don't, so it's really disappointing.
Now, you know, GM was in the news again because President Biden was essentially praising them for, I mean, you would think that Elon Musk was working for GM, you know, with his comments about how they're pretty much leading the way of this electric car revolution. You know, what do you make of that?
Alex, I wish I could tell you what I make of it, really. It's unfortunate. It's inaccurate. You know, I think it just kind of goes to show you the state of politics. Biden obviously, you know, got in office with the help of the unions, and now it's payback time, and he has to talk great about, you know, union companies, and GM is, you know, a union company. So I think he's, you know, rewriting history that GM, you know, brought us electrification. The only thing that I will say is, you know, GM has done a decent job with it. I mean, they brought us the Volt early on back in 2010. Then the Bolt was kind of like the first quote unquote affordable long range electric vehicle. They did run out of their tax credits, so they sold the most electric vehicles other than Tesla. But how could you possibly make a statement like that with Tesla, you know, really leading the way and dragging the entrenched legacy brands into electrification? It's just a terrible move, a terrible thing to say, and on all levels, it's just really unfortunate.
Agreed. Now, listen, actually, one of the biggest news outside of Los Angeles Auto Show was created by you, my friend. And why don't you tell us what it is? Because it's exciting.
Yeah, so I had a really cool opportunity just yesterday. Lucid allowed me to be the very first independent journalist to record a 0 to 100% charging session on the Lucid Air. Now, why is that important? It's important because Lucid had been telling us, you know, for years now that the car is going to have the longest range, it's going to be the most efficient, it's going to charge the fastest. And, you know, we have the range out there now. It's EPA range rated. It is the longest range. It's the most efficient when you calculate the battery pack and so forth, or at least right up there with the most efficient electric vehicles made. But we didn't really know about the charging. There's been no proof of that. Well, I have it now, and I'm going to be putting together a video, putting it up on my my YouTube channel, State of Charge, in a couple of days. And you're going to find some really cool information on that. I will say it is the fastest charging electric vehicle available today, and I've done these charge tests on pretty much every electric vehicle out there. But the one thing I will qualify with that, I want everybody to understand, you know, the fastest charging really comes down to how many miles per minute. You know, how fast does the car charge in relation to like how many miles do I get? So some people say, well, this car does 0 to 80% in 15 minutes. Well, that's only telling part of the story. What really matters is how long do I have to plug in and how many miles do I get? In that regard, the Lucid Air is the fastest charging electric vehicle made today.
And what's the highest of the power that you saw it actually receiving? Was it like above 300 like they promised?
Yeah, we broke 300 kilowatt for the first time. We got up to 303 kilowatt. Might even hit 304 for like a second or two, but it really maintained 303 for a little bit. So over 300 kilowatt maximum charge rate, which is really amazing. But that just tells part of the story. I don't get really enamored with that maximum charge rate because it's all about how long does it hold it and what the whole charging curve is. And like I said earlier, the customers really don't care about all that. They don't care about C rate. They don't care about maximum charging rate. What customers care about is how long do I have to stay here when I plug in to get 100 miles, 200 miles, 300 miles of range. And in that regard, the Air is number one.
If there was ever time to subscribe to Tom's channel, it's this week. You don't want to miss that exclusive video of the world's fastest charging EV ever, so I put a link to it in the description of this video. Before we get to the next story, as always, let's check out the grumpy comment of the week, and this one comes from Bob Smith. I am sure that's his real name. He asks, what's with the top button of your shirts always being done up? Now, first of all, if I had $1 for every time somebody commented on my fashion choices, I probably could have already paid off my ID4. But secondly, I'm starting to worry that the only way some of you want to consume my content is not for the information or even for the dad jokes, but only if I show some more skin. Though, you know, at this point, I feel I have no choice if I do want to pay off my ID4, but to follow the steps of all of the 22-year-old Instagram models and start my own OnlyFans page. So get your credit card ready, Bob. Let's move on to the rest of the stories, and most of them came from the Los Angeles Auto Show, and I will give you a quick summary of everything that happened. But a few days before that, I attended another cool event in Sonoma, California, for the electric car enthusiasts, the Holley's High Voltage Experience. Lots of awesome modified electric cars, and I saw some familiar faces like Rich Rebuild, who we just saw at the SEMA show, an all-electric police car chase, and so many great people and EVs. I got to drive the cop car myself and mainly did it to play with a siren, and I even tried out for a DJ position for the next year, but I was declined. Something about not having a rhythm. Oh well, but I already cannot wait for the next year. But let's talk about everything that happened at the Los Angeles Auto Show, which is now open to the public. I will give you a quick rundown of everything, but because so many things have happened, I will release a separate video fully dedicated to this event this coming Thursday. Let's start with the Zivas, the very first of its kind electric car awards, which I hosted on the first day of the show. 9 categories with some surprise winners. Hopefully all of you guys have voted, and I had a blast. I also had a great time hanging out with the one and only Sandy Munro, which I almost never get to do in person, and we taped our very first conversation on camera face-to-face as well, which I will be releasing in the next couple of weeks, so stay tuned for that. One of the 2 biggest events at the show belonged to Fisker, who has unveiled the production intent version of the Ocean SUV with all new interior and a center screen that can be flipped from vertical to horizontal and back, much like BYD's Tong and Hung. Love that feature. The price will stay at $37,500 as promised, so will the flexible lease at $379 a month. I did ask Henrik the question that somehow no one else bothered asking, which is why they have gone with Magna rather than the Volkswagen's MEB platform as originally was announced. Watch my Thursday video for the answer, because we gotta move on to another big unveiling of a brand that nobody has ever heard of before until about a month ago. VinFast, a Vietnamese company that has already been making tens of thousands of cars, backed by a multi-billion-dollar empire of its parent company Vingroup, and they already have a factory. They have unveiled 2 EVs to go on sale here in the US next year, the E35 and the E36, both with over 250 miles of EPA estimated range. The company has just opened its US headquarters right there in Los Angeles and is planning on building a factory right here in the United States in 2024. Another person I met at the VinFast display was the supercar blondie, whose real name is also Alex. Another big name that had a big announcement was Nissan with its highly anticipated Ariya, which is even better than I thought it would be. However, it looks like the deliveries are pushed back by almost a year and the base model is not going to be announced until the next year. Nissan did open the reservation queue with the cheapest available model at around $46,000 with a 300-mile range and some free perks at EVgo charging network. Ford was there as well with the Mustang Mach-E and the F-150 Lightning, which I got to ride in on an indoor closed course. That was pretty cool, and this was my first time riding inside one of these babies. Then I finally saw the twins, the Toyota BZ4X and the Subaru Solterra, and I gotta tell you, Solterra's display was one of the most beautiful displays I've seen at any auto show. I have no doubt that both EVs will sell very, very well despite Toyota's very public and brutal anti-EV position. The other pair of twins were the concepts from Hyundai and Kia, the 7 and the EV9. Very cool and beautiful, but obviously nowhere near an actual prototype. I also saw my new dream car, just couldn't figure out where I could reserve one, so I guess I have some time to get a matching shirt. Canoo was there as well. Their display and the conversation that I had with their staff kept me very disinterested in the brand. There were also many other smaller startup companies that had some really cool designs and technologies like the Indy One and a few others, but again, I will talk more about them on Thursday, so stay tuned. Oh, and Jeep was there as well to showcase their cool charging station for the electric Jeep, so I guess as soon as they're ready to make some, they'll be all set. There was one more unveiling during the Los Angeles Auto Show, but it happened all the way on the other side of the world. XPeng Motors has unveiled its 4th EV, the G9 electric SUV, which is expected to hit the Chinese market in less than a year, but it was the first XPeng EV designed for the international markets. As I mentioned before, stay tuned for the full video covering the Los Angeles Auto Show on Thursday, but if you want to know some of the behind-the-scenes stories and tales, tune in into our subscriber hangout live on Monday at 1 p.m. Pacific. You can set a reminder on my channel's homepage. All right, looking forward to all of your comments, even the ones about how high I button up my shirts. Other than that, see you guys next time, and remember to stay charged.